So, Sean, for today's word of the day, I am choosing Hatterene. Noun. Do you know what Hatterene is?
I have no idea, but it's a funny word.
It's actually a Pokemon!
Oh!
It's a psychic fairy type of Pokemon from Generation 8. And it's a very witchy kind of Pokemon because the hair above Hatterene's head is shaped like a wide brimmed hat, a witch's hat. But she also has a tentacle that has a trio of sharp claws. So we have witches and tentacles. I wonder why I chose this character.
Yes.
And Hatterene has a solitary and reclusive nature, emitting psychic power strong enough to cause headaches as a method to deter others from approaching it. It dislikes it dislikes loud noises, tearing apart perpetrators with the claws on its tentacle as a result. So it can be vicious. And it creates like illusions and plays with people's minds and deceives them for its own pleasure because it's just a bitch like that. And this Pokemon is known as the Forest Witch because it lives in the forest alone.
Nice.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. So, welcome to Words of the Witches, episode 76. O.M. Grams. Oh, but Jesus, we are starting season 10, Sean.
That's crazy. I've been looking forward to 10, though, because I know some stuff you told me. Everybody's excited about Pat Shan's writing. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's get these 20 issues done.
Yeah, we just had an amazing interview with him. It was a very wonderful time with him. The stories he told, I felt very loved and very rewarded and very fulfilled with that interview.
I did too. I think he's a very good interviewee. He gave us a lot of information, very candid, very seeming like open, like an open energy to all walks of life and wanting to support all walks of life.
And we hinted at a lot of stuff to come without spoiling. So what are your thoughts about what season 10 might bring?
I kind of get the impression that Prue might die. Like, she might realize what she did was not good. She can't just take over people's bodies, and she's going to have to make the decision to right her wrong by letting herself die.
Okay. I mean, that's a good hypothesis. Is there anything that you would want to see in season 10?
I'm definitely excited because you mentioned like more about Coop. I think he's my biggest fascination right now, even more so because of Let Gorgons Be Gorgons, like whet my appetite for more Coop. And I think I'd like to see more of the sisters' powers growing, especially Paige and Phoebe. I don't really care about Piper's powers. She's already OP.
Oh, by the way, I'm Kevin, the resident Charmed resource.
I'm Sean, and I just love comic books.
I was just so in to get started. There you go. I do have some fun announcements before we get into the issue.
Okay.
I've had some people writing in, people that are playing catch up with the podcast right now. So my friend Steven, who was on the Seasons of the Witch Volume 1, way back when we were doing the novels, said he's just started the comics episodes. And he said that since they've been demon free for a year and a half, they all just spent it boning. That's why all the kids were born around the same time.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good call. There you go.
Yeah, accurate.
Yeah, and then Bernard, who was on our Leo Rising episode, has been just binging it right now, and he's been leaving like Twitter thoughts. So he's on issue 14. So in season 9, issue 14, and this was the Cupid's Harrow, the one where Cole was fighting Coop from getting to his family. He says he's giving Cole a pass because he figures he's trying to stop Phoebe from getting a premonition that will cause discord with the Cooper Smith family. So he is on Cole's side there. And for issue 13 with Piper's place with Wyatt casting the spell, he thinks based on what we saw that there might be a variation to what a spell can and should do, which I guess I can see that based the caster and their intention could affect how the spell plays out.
That makes sense because I don't remember where we established it, but spells we said were mostly based on intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like a real world rule too. It's whatever you send out. For issue 15, when we had White Lady Jugs, he says, "I felt like your co-hosts were operating under instructions not to reveal Prue." I was like, dudes, this is the thing we've been waiting for 10 years. But then I looked back at my tweets for this issue, and I had no idea either, even though it's obvious in hindsight. And here's a canonical thing for issue 16 when Rennick was controlling Bailey with the crystal. He's like, how can Rennick control Bailey even with the gem if Magic School is protected?
Oh, snap. I like that.
So I didn't catch that one, but yeah, that would be a canonical error.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so that's that. Oh, and some fun news is we are officially a reference on the Charmed fandom now.
Wow.
Our our episode with Nugent was used for social media information on the Charmed fandom, and we are the reference for that. I also believe they created a whole fandom page for the podcast itself, for Words of the Witches.
So that explains why when I went to pick up my lunch today, people are looking at me and like taking pictures. Now I know why.
I know, we're moving on up. This is very exciting.
Yes.
All right, well, silence! Let's get into this comic. Bring back my girls. This is season 10, issue 1, No Country for Old Ones. And this was published October 9th, 2014, debuting at New York Comic Con that year. Written by Pat Shand, artwork by Elisa Feliz. And one thing about season 10 you'll notice is Elisa Feliz is pretty much for the entire run. We do have a few other artists come in here and there, but it's pretty much all her the entire time. So the art is going to be more consistent. Coloring by Valentina Cuomo, letters by Jim Campbell, edited by Paul Ruditis, and then we have our cover by David Seidman again. And this is a pretty straightforward picture of the girls. I don't know if I like it. They look a little Uncanny Valley to me. You can tell Paige's drawing is based off of a season 5 promo picture of Rose. I feel like Phoebe has a little bit too much eyeliner on here. But they're also covered in like white octopus tentacles, it looks like. Yeah, so that's that. So I'm going to read the back of what the volume 1 of season 10 is, and then we'll get into the issue.
Let's do it.
The Hallowell sisters, Piper, Phoebe, and Paige, are the Charmed Ones. Together, they alone have access to the greatest source of pure magic the world has ever known, the Power of Three. The Power of Three was threatened when their dead sister Prue was resurrected in the body of a coma patient. For a time, the sisters' magic was thrown off balance, but now, having relinquished the Power of Three, Prue has been imbued with the magic of the Nexus of the All, a mystical convergence with untold potential. Though the Power of Three is once again in harmony, Prue must never leave the location of the Nexus, or the sanctity of magic as a whole will be compromised.
Ooh.
Ooh. Page 1. Throws you right in. We have this giant Hulk tentacle green demon thing. And it's got Piper and Paige in its tentacles wrapped around. Oh, and Phoebe's little leg over there. She's on the floor like, and he's got her leg. So he's got them all. And he's like, the old ones will rise again when I devour the Power of Three. And Paige is like, this is not good. And Piper's like, you think? And so things are happening.
Things are happening, right? I even like had to check, like, is this page 1? I feel like this isn't page 1, but it's page 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then on page 2, we see before, and we see a shot of the manor, and we see somebody walking up to the door and ringing the doorbell.
Ding dong. Oh, of course. On the next page, it does not say ding dong. It says bing bong. Isn't that the guy from Inside Out?
Yeah,
Bing bong.
Bing Bong. The guy we all hated until the mid of the movie when something big happens, and then we all are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Bing Bong."
So the doorbell's going bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, and Piper's like, "Can somebody get that?" She's cooking cookies, baking cookies, and she's like, "Okay, well, nobody's getting it, so I guess it's my job. Here we go." And she walks into the hallway, and yeah, she's like, all right, keep your pants on. And then Paige and Henry come down. She's like, Paige is like, what? My pants were on. Weren't our pants on? They were on, weren't they, Henry? And Henry's like, real subtle, Paige.
Yeah, I love that.
So they were having a little bit of sexy time upstairs. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Throwing her shirt over her shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then we see Phoebe in the middle. She's like, did I just hear the doorbell in my flirty pose? Who could it be? And then Piper answers the door and she's like, yeah, I'm coming. And then they open it and she's like, hi. And Phoebe and Paige and Henry are just in the doorway too, looking at the man. Who is it?
So at the door is Steamy McSex neighbor, and he's like, hi, I'm new to the neighborhood, so I thought I'd bring something by. And Piper says, oh, wow, that's so nice of you. My name is Piper, and these are my sisters, Phoebe and Paige. And he says, I'd have brought more if I knew I was living next to the cast of Full House. And Paige says, ha, you're funny, Full House. That was my favorite show growing up. And Henry says, it gets so weird to me that this is Henry. He looks so much like Coop. It does not look like Henry. He says, hi, I'm Henry, Paige's husband. And he says, sorry, I'm Germs. Because he doesn't want to shake Henry's hand. And Henry says, oh, sure, my apologies. And he says, I'm sorry I can't stay. I merely wanted to drop those off. I truly hope you enjoy them. And Phoebe says, we didn't catch your name. And Paige says, he will forever be known as the gorgeous germaphobe.
And Henry's just rolling his eyes.
Yeah,
I love that.
Deep roll.
It's like, there's my wife flirting with another guy, sure. So the next page, we have Piper carrying the tray that he gave them, and it's covered in this little, I don't know, towel or whatever. And then we hear the baby monitor go, wah! And so Henry's like, I'll go check on the baby. Paige is like, Henry Jr.'s awake. Want to get that baby? He's like, oh, now I'm a baby. Oh. And then she's like, what? A girl's allowed to flirt. So there's still, he's mad at this little flirty banter with that man. So, okay. He's going up the stairs. So then Phoebe is like, you think of what I'm thinking? And then Piper says, you're an empath, so it's very likely. This tray of goodies. Pepper's like, I merely wanted to drop those off. And Phoebe's like, I truly hope you enjoy them. Yeah, who says merely? It's like, this is so foreboding. I know it. And Paige is like, oh man, I thought he was cute.
Aww. Paige is still horny, even though she's married.
Yeah.
I do love the line, you think you and I'm thinking? Well, you're an empath, so it's very likely. This is great sister writing.
It is.
Continued in the kitchen. Phoebe's like, so demon? And Paige is like, yeah, total demon. And Phoebe's like, I was thinking warlock. We haven't gotten one of those in a while. And then, this is still Henry, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Henry comes in with Henry Jr. and he's like, don't you think you're being a little suspicious? And they all look at each other. And then Paige gives us our first rhyme time, Kevin, and I get to say it.
You do.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue. Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
Are we witches being hasty, or did evil bake these pastries? And then this horrible Death Eater skull comes out of the food, and Paige pats Henry on the shoulder and says, nope.
I have one problem with this page.
Oh no!
And it's mostly because I want there to be an onomatopoeia of this going.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have a lot of onomatopoeia action in this one.
Yeah, I just want to like a nice like, and then like evil laughter.
I love it.
That would have just made it.
Yeah.
So the next page has Piper on the phone. She's like, "Hey, you." And she's like, "I just want to apologize about missing your calls. Things are kind of crazy here." And then on the other end is Prue with all of her tattoos. Her tattoos here look like almost like a junior high girl's notebook.
It does.
Like just all their doodles and but there's a triquetra in there and there's a cool little pentagram in there. I mean, it is beautiful. But yeah. And Prue's like, yeah, just can't get a moment to myself, you know? It's going crazy here too, even though I'm here with Cole. She's like, so, anything going on? Anything demony? Piper's like, oh, well, you know, Phoebe has her book thing. Paige has students at magic school. I am catering a wedding now with this girl named Rachel that nobody knows. But she's like, there was a little demony something. She's like, well, I think this demon sent us some hexed cupcakes. She's like, who was it? An underground assassin? Assassin? Prue's just like, yeah, keep me posted because I'm ready for some butt kicking.
On the next page, we get our second onomatopoeia. Something like crashes against the manor. The door crashes open. It says crack. And Phoebe Piper at the same time is saying, I'm sure when a threat comes along, ah! And she ducks down to get away from the door. And you can hear Prue going, Piper, what was that? And we see Mr. Germaphobe. He's now like Mr. Tentacle Hulk. And he's like, how are you not dead? No matter. The power of Gaxagil will crush you. So is that how he said it?
Yeah, I mean, you just asked him. Gaxagil.
Gaxagil. Okay.
I'm glad I asked. I would have been.
Yeah,
I would have been really struggling with that, I think.
Yeah. And then we see Piper just confidently back on the phone. Prue says, Piper. And she says, Prue, I'm going to have to call you back.
Immediately at this image of the Gaxagil, I have to get, you're supposed to be dead!
A llama!
He's supposed to be dead! That's what I came to my mind.
I love it.
So then we cut to the next page and it says 3 months later. And we see a beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. And then we go to the next panel and it's the beautiful manor. And we see people talking. There's like these little talk bubbles. We don't know who they are talking though, but somebody's talking about the charmed ones. He's like, okay, so I got in the Halloween Manor. And then someone else says, were they all there? Yeah, they were in crisis mode. And then we see Piper looking through the Book of Shadows. She's like, there's got to be something. And Phoebe and Paige are there. And they're just trying to figure out who this guy is. Like, he gets more powerful every time he fights us. So they've been fighting this Gaxagil guy for months. And every time he gets stronger and stronger. Piper doesn't think he's invincible. So they think he must have a weakness. Because they did manage to get him out of the manor 3 times. Just not kill him for good. And then the background talking people say, yeah, this demon's been fighting them and he claimed to be an old one. But, you know, who hasn't gone on an ancient powerful trip, you know? It's like, I've been watching them forever. And then the bottom panel has Leo on the phone. He's like, it's all right, Billy. I appreciate you checking in, but don't help us. And then we see, I guess this is Coop in the background. He's like, what has Phoebe been feeding Parker? This is not a normal smell. Oh. And then the talkie people voices say, the husbands are trying to help, but they suck.
Basically. All right, so next up, we see that the sisters are up in the attic, and it looks like this is Piper. Says, hey, there's something. And she's like, I don't know if this refers to Gaxagil, but there's a bit about a race of demons older than words. And Phoebe's like, that wasn't there before. And Paige is like, yeah, the book's been kind of like growing lately. Like, there's this whole chapter the other day on satyrs. And like, it wasn't a great read. It was pretty boring. And then Piper reads about Gaxagil, and it says, the darkness that lives beyond history can only be penetrated at its core.
This is a dirty book.
Dirty. And Paige says, uncomfortably reminiscent of the satyr chapter, actually. And Phoebe, ever ignoring Paige, says, its core. That must mean its heart. And Paige is kind of like walking away, and she says, fine, but everything dies when you stab it in the heart. Getting to his heart is the problem. He seems pretty intent on killing us before we're close enough to get stabby. We don't even know where he is. And then Piper says, we've got Prue working on that. Come on, Paige. Stop it. Stop.
Yeah, I do love that they talk about how the book expands, though. And it brings me back to when we talked about the Book of Shadows, how I feel like there has to be some kind of connection to a database, or that it's the ancestors from beyond adding it as they learn things.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just good to note. So then we cut to the Nexus of the All, and it's Prue's castle, which we know she turned the manor into in the War on Witches. So, continuity.
I think it's so cool that, like, we're finally seeing the Nexus as it's been described. So this was very exciting for me.
Yeah. And then the voices say, I popped over to see what the fourth sister was doing after that. From what I gather, her spirit was resurrected from the body of a coma patient. But now she absorbed a whole lot of magic somehow. I don't know what her powers can do. But she is somewhere in the desert. And I heard Leo say, Nexus of the All. Don't know what that means, but Prue might be a scary bitch right now. So, just saying.
Because chapter 10 came out before the War on Witches, so Pat Shand added this, and then Paul Ruditis went back and like filled in the blanks.
Yeah, because those books came out. Well, season 10 was about halfway through.
Wow. Okay, that is very hand in hand good work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really had to keep growing that. And then the second book, the Let Gorgons Be Gorgons, came out still before season 10 was done, but just a little bit further along.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, now I see just how much, because Pat mentioned him and Paul were like working hand in hand. So this just shows how closely, like, this is really cool for the fans to get to, like, of course, if you haven't read the books, it's just turned into a floating castle. But if you have, you're like, I know when this happened.
Exactly. It's really cool. And a lot of people were reading those books after they read these. So then they were just given context after the fact. But yeah. But we see Prue floating here, and she is in a trance of state.
Yeah.
This is actually going to be our power play. Power play. Today's power is astral projection. What Prue is doing here is astral projection. We find out on the next page. Astral projection is one that she got in season 2 of Power, and it is the power to project one's consciousness or soul into an astral form outside of the body. When a person astral projects, their physical body falls to the floor, slumps over, or remains still until they return. Obviously, Prue is more advanced right now, so she's not like slumped over. She's got some class and skill. While in astral mode, active powers are dormant. However, some advanced users have mastered the skill to use their powers whilst astral projecting. There are 2 types of astral projection. There's projecting yourself into the physical plane with a corporeal body, or projecting yourself onto the astral plane as an invisible spirit. In corporeal form, you can interact with the physical world, you can touch things, you can communicate with people. And in Prue's case, she used her telekinesis to kind of move her body out of her. That's how her power evolved. A little bit of a stretch, but that's how it worked in the beginning. And you can cast spells in astral form as well. The invisible form is what we see mostly the bad guys do. We see Rex Buckland do it. We've seen Barbas do it. And that's where you appear invisible and you can make a telepathic connection. You can influence somebody. You can implant thoughts and suggestions to people. Astral projection can be taught to those who don't possess it, and can also be attained with spells and potions. So it's really like fuck Prue's drag at this point later on. because yeah, this was a special power for Prue. But then Prue ostensibly apparently taught Leo how to do it, and then he taught the sisters how to do it in season 7, and then they mastered it in like 3 seconds, and then fought Zanku. So thanks.
Thanks.
And then Mrs. Winterbourne, the Boy Meets World mom, taught Ms. Donovan to do it. Donovan.
More Pokemon.
This power was shown in every season of the show. And a funny note is Shannon Doherty said on The Daily Show that she was instructed by the producers to look orgasmic when Prue astral projected.
That is funny. That's naughty too.
Naughty.
So now we're at the nexus of the all with Prue and Cole, and we hear the off-screen voice say she was working on finding Gaxagil too, and that's about all the contact she and her sisters have had recently. All she's got is him, winky face. And Cole says, Prue? And she says, you're back sooner than I expected. And he says, did you find anything on the ass? Droll plane? And she answered, whispering to you. And then the other voice says, interesting. I was under the impression he was married to Phoebe before he betrayed the Charmed Ones. Are he and Prue? ... I love that.
It is so perfect.
Now I see why this is such a question, because Pat totally ran with this, probably throughout the season.
You know, we had like the inklings in season 9 with Paul Ruditis and him going with Prue. They had a kind of an innuendo there, but this is like real direct, like telling you like,
And then Cole says, I've got something. And the other voice says, I don't know.
Like,
Are they fucking?
I want to know the drama. Then the next page has the sisters walking down the stairs. The fake stairs, Sean.
The fake fucking stairs.
And then like, so Cole found out some stuff about the weakness of Gaxagil, and then Prue told them, is it his heart? Could it be more? And Phoebe was like, tell me it's water. It has to be water. I guess to be like Mouth of the Wicked Witch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although if it was a gremlin, that would not work. She says the old ones are vulnerable only in their true form, so they have to be in their full demonic form to be vanquished. And then Paige is like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. We just have to get, old Gax to show us what's going on beneath his clothes. I mean, veil, whatever.
Oh.
And then we can get him. And then Piper's like, did I mention that his true form is a hulking, slimy, tentacled monster with the power to devour the Golden Gate Bridge? And Paige is like, oh, I prefer water. Piper sits down, or she goes to grab this baggie on the couch, and she's like, Cole thinks he's somewhere in Toronto, in Canada. And Phoebe's like, I want to go to Canada. I always wanted to visit there. Piper's like, yeah, we've got the spells. We've got a thrice blessed crossbow from Glynis. That crazy weapons lady. And then the cracoom comes through the door. I need to go over this thrice blessed thing. What do you think that means? What does thrice blessed mean? Well, first let's go. What does twice blessed even mean? What do you think twice blessed means?
Wouldn't it just be like it was blessed that many times by a priest? So it's, I guess, more powerful because it has more blessings upon it?
Sure. That makes sense to me. So it'd be like a magical priest or high priestess would have to bless it. Or maybe blessed by 3 different magical beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, because twice blessed we know is what Wyatt was. And for that to happen, it had to be born of a charmed one and born on Imbolc, the Sabbat, or a Sabbat, for you to be twice blessed. Although the comics in season 9 do change that prophecy a little bit. They insinuate that twice blessed means born of a charmed one and a white lighter. I'm like, no, that's not twice
No.
blessed. You can't. It's not the same unless they're thinking that they spread Wyatt's twice blessings through the three of them. I'm still mad about the whole plot line. It's fine, but
What we could do, since we're best friends with Pat Shand, we can write down this question, and when he comes back on for number 20, we could be like, bitch, what is a thrice blessed crossbow?
that's true. But yeah, the Krakoom blasting through the door, and Piper's like, ah!
Cool. So next, Piper goes, the door again. I liked that door, which is very Piper, because she's never like, oh no, a demon. She's always like, really, right now? And Paige, after some very heavy facial reconstruction, says, guys, and we see Gaxagiel, or Gexagiel, how do you say it?
Yeah, Gexagiel, yeah.
Gexagiel, and a bunch of hot demony men behind him, and she says, I think the Canadians are here.
The next page has the posse ready to fight. Their faces are glowing with symbols. They got fireballs in their hands. And Gexagiel's like, I want you to die, or whatever. He's like, I was going to hunt you slowly, but now I heard that you were checking up on me, and I don't like being checked up on, so now I'm bringing the fight to you. Here's our date. Attack! And so fireballs are being thrown. Phoebe ducks, and then Coop and Henry come down, and Henry's like, whoa, what? And then, and Phoebe's like, Coop, beam Henry and the children to magic school. And then he does. He grabs Henry, and they beam away. Cupid Burger away. And then the bottom panel has Paige with her orb shield up, and it's over the three of them, and fireballs are being deflected. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, we'll be fine. We're on home turf.
Very hot. Speaking of hot, on the next page, we have a fireball being thrown at Piper, and the guy is saying, die, witches! And much like when somebody calls me woke, Piper's like, I'm confused. Was that an insult? And she stops the fireball and reverses it back, and she says, guess we'll never know. Because she whooshes the demon.
When what she's actually doing there, she's actually using her molecular acceleration power there. She's pretty much melting him starting him on fire. But I was confused by that too. Like, so I think she freezes the fireball and then does this, but where does the fireball go then?
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you're here, because these next two panels are confusing to me too. Because it looks like Paige orbs her and Phoebe behind the guys.
Correct.
And then Phoebe says, hey. And then I guess the guys turn around and shoot at Phoebe, but she levitates and says, gotta work on your aim. But it's weird because it looks like they orbed in front of a hall, but then it goes out the front door, which I think is why it confused me.
Yeah, they orbed in front of the front door. The one where they're in the hall, it must be covering the threshold or something, because that should be the door there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I got it right then.
All right, so then the next page, a guy shoots another fireball at her, and Phoebe's like, hiya! She kicks another guy into the fireball. It goes whoosh. I'm like, ooh. And then another one of the guys are going after the thrice blessed crossbow, and Pepper's like, that's a mouthful. So he's grabbing it out of the bag, and Paige is like, give me that, and orbs it to her hands. She's like, no, I got the thrice blessed crossbow. Thank you.
And I noticed that Paige didn't have to say the crossbow. She just said, give me that. So yeah, her powers are definitely getting stronger.
I mean, it's still a vocal command. We learned that she doesn't have to do vocal commands, but she's still saying it, so I guess, but still.
On the next page, we have Piper saying, take that, as she splodies one of the demons. I love Paige's little panel. Bless you! She's shooting him with the crossbow in the head.
I was reminded of Sister Act. Remember, she's like, you know what? Bless you!
There you go.
Dolores Van Cartier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, so the three sisters are standing as Gexagiel.
Yeah.
Gexagiel is like coming to face them. Phoebe says, "All right, go team."
Oh, and then yes, Gexagiel rises from his mortal body, and he's like, "Yes, the old ones will rise again when I devour the power of 3." So this is where we were in the beginning of the issue. So we see all of what led up to this, and yeah, this is not good. You think? And then Phoebe's like, "Well, we do have a new spell that I have. Let's see if it works, just in case." And Pepper's like, "Just in case it works? Are you kidding me?" And Paige's like, "Well, it's better than nothing. We gotta, you can either try the spell or have an exceptionally painful death." So, so we get our rhyme time moment here.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
The power of 3 versus one old one, the most ancient evil under the sun. Your time is up. Your days are done. Now make this old one come undone. And in the middle of the spell, we see Gexagiel's like, "You wish to defeat an evil such as mine, an evil as old as time, with rhymes, tale as old as time." And they're like, "Wait, did he just realize that he was rhyming?" Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah,
Never mind.
I love that.
It's so goofy. I love it.
So we continue the fight, and it looks like Piper's going, "Ah!" Lots of ahing this comic. And then Phoebe's like, "It didn't vanquish him." And then Paige says, "But it did weaken him, so maybe hearts." And for a second, I thought she was doing like Captain Planet style, like calling on
I
heart.
know.
But no, she was calling for his heart, which she receives. She's holding his heart.
Morbid. It's dark.
Yeah. And then Piper, much like we're all thinking, goes, "Geez." And then Phoebe says, Did you just orb his heart out of his body?" And then Gexagiel goes all plotchy. He turns into green slime. And she goes, "I just thought of it. Not doing that again." So this actually interesting fact. This is where they got the slime for the Nickelodeon shows, Kevin, from
Yeah.
Monquise Demons.
Yes. See? Oh. Now I don't know if I want to be covered in it as much anymore. And then they make it edible. They start eating it and stuff. Like,
Ew.
yeah.
So much like many a child in the 90s, we see the sisters are slimed. They're sitting covered in Gexagiel. And I believe that is Piper talking. She says, "It'd be nice if all demons could disappear in a convenient cloud of smoke, wouldn't it?" And then the voices say, "So they defeated the old one?" And the other one says, "Long, gross story short, yes. The charmed ones triumph over evil again, as always."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So then it cuts to, this is where we meet the voices that were talking this whole issue of their observations. And they're like, "You've observed quite a lot, Fritz. But what have you learned?" He's like, "They vanquished hundreds of demons, even more powerful than the two of us put together. So even these two guys are like chopped liver compared to the ones they've already faced. These really high level demons." Mm-hmm. And it's like, how can they do that? And he's like, "Because of the charmed ones. It's what they do."
Duh.
This guy in the shadows, he's like, "The Hallow Witches have this unique ability to utterly evade death. It's very annoying because the stupid bitch Grams keeps coming back even though she's been dead for years, flipping the pages. We've got Prue, who was like the great triumph. The one charmed one we got to be killed is now she's all of a sudden back again in whoever the hell body." He's like, "What is it with these witches always coming back to life?" And then Fritz is like, "Yeah, they're unstoppable. So why are you smiling?" He's like, "I have a plan. Have you ever heard of the ancient Athame?" The most generic term ever, but it's fine. And then he's like, "It's a blade infused with a spell powerful enough to kill the soul itself. Its victims simply cease to exist. So if you are stabbed by this Athame, you don't exist at all. No spirit form, no afterlife, no nothing. You're just gone. You disappear from existence." And Fritz is like, "It's a legend." And then he's like, "But aren't legends stories too old to be proven false? Maybe it's real." And it's weird that all these people in the magical community are just like, "That's not real." witches do this, demons do this. Like, why? You say things aren't real. You should just be open to it until you prove it that's not real. But it's fine. And he's like, so you're saying these things really exist? Qua. And this guy, his name is Valen. Pat talked about Valen in the interview. This is him. And he has this fiery hand with the faces of the charmed ones in it. He's like, not only does it exist, but I know where to find it.
So Valen looks like how they draw Ash Williams from Evil Dead in the comic books. He looks almost exactly like Ash.
Groovy. I love that.
Groovy.
Yeah. And that's the end. To be continued.
Oh. Yay.
So what are your thoughts on this issue?
I like this. It was a little confusing to read at first with the jumpiness, but once you get through it, it makes sense as to why it was done this way, because I think it's a fun way to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with the Charm Sisters, but also introduce that Valen and Fritz have been spying on them, and they have this plan to like enact against them, a plan that, just like Pat had said, like, brings back the whole question of death. Like, the sisters aren't immortal. They could actually die. Like, this is really scary now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are stakes. There's meaning behind it, life and death, and that's the mission statement, and we're getting it right away.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is a nice tale to get us back into the swing of things, and it's just a new start. So it does seem like a seemingly straightforward kind of enemy in the beginning, but there's still the twinge of things under the surface. I did like the action. I understood what was happening pretty well, so I'm glad I was there to clarify it for you. I like the use of powers. I like the action, and I thought it was really nice. And there's a lot of like really quick, funny moments. The humor in it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Pat's depiction of the sisters, because I remember when we read chapter 1 of Social Medium, I was a little worried because I felt like they were kind of just generic, but my fears are assuaged after reading this.
Yay. So anything for put that in my canonical hat?
Canonical.
Not that I can think of.
I had a few things. We already talked about the thrice blessed thing, so that's out of the way. But Phoebe is referred to as Phoebe instead of Phoebes. Just one letter, but it's a difference.
You're right.
Like, it's not Phoebe, but okay. And when Paige orbs the heart, this is very reminiscent of Charmed Again, when she was like when she had the choice, the 48-hour window, and she was trying to orb that guy's heart. She's like, heart, and she was under the dark aura. So here it's like that one, and that took a long time, but maybe because she was new and she was still not completely sold on it. But here she's like, I got your heart. But still kind of a cool little callback to that.
Yeah.
And this is more of an artistic canonical error. I'm not a fan of the way that the orbing and the beaming were drawn, because they looked like glowy goo. Didn't look like it should. It had like those slimy, like floaty, gooey things on it.
Yeah, not like balls.
Yeah. All right. Tips for future white letters.
Oh, we're really just messengers? Guides? Think of us as guardian angels for good witches.
Tips for future white lighters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
What's the moral for this one?
I would say in this one, along the lines of never get too comfortable, because you never know. Like, anytime you feel like you've done a job and you have it under control, something new is going to come along and fuck you up. So always be aware that, like, you're not the smartest ever. You always have something new to learn.
And my tip is trust your instincts. At least follow through to make sure your instincts are justified. If you have a suspicion, get the answers and figure out if your suspicions are valid or if you're just being paranoid. But you deserve to at least investigate your suspicions.
Yeah.
Next is ooh, onomatopoeia.
You already know exactly what I'm gonna pick. I'm obviously gonna say Bing Bong because it's not even like what a doorbell sounds like, and it's Bing Bong.
Bing bong, bing bong. It is super cute. I mean, it took me off guard. I'm like, oh, I was not expecting that to be the doorbell sound, but I like it. But I'm actually gonna be different. I'm going to say plotch.
Plotch.
Yeah, the explodey demon. I mean, I can just visualize it. I can picture the sound, and it makes sense, and I like it, and it's cool. I want to plotch all over myself.
I just plotched my pants thinking about it.
Ooh. All right, most valuable panel. What's your favorite one in the issue?
Okay, here's my problem. Between sexiest and most valuable, I have 3 that I really like, but
Oh my gosh.
for most valuable, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say it's the last page with Valen holding up the flame with the sisters because he's sexy. He's the new villain. I'm very intrigued. I'm intrigued, Kevin.
And that's a really good one because that's things in motion. I'm actually just gonna say page 2 of the manor because yes, it's stuff we've seen before, but seeing it again, it made me feel like I was coming back home, and it gave me a sense of warmth and happiness, and it was just a beautiful drawing. So I chose page 2.
Nice. My close call was the one with the 3 sisters when they're fighting and they're in Paige's orb shield. That's just a really cool picture. Yeah. But then we've also seen lots of images of them together, so that's why I went with Valen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. That image is really badass to me, but because of the gooey looking orbs, it knocked it down.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, sexiest drawing.
Okay, this is one of those moments. Might be a little weird, might be a little tentacle-y porn, but when Gaxagil is like storming the manor with all the guys behind him, like his shirt is so tight, he's got a nice little like bulge going on, and the fact that he's like an ancient one, I have a feeling that this is going to be a big plot element. Like we're putting in a whole new type of thing that's going to be in season 10. So it's sexy that way too. I want to know more about them.
A whole new race of demons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. That is a very sexy image. I almost went with that. But I decided for this one to go on the close-up on Phoebe's boobies. The little torso where her because she's next to her sisters and her boobs are super apparent. Like her sisters look really flat and boring compared to her. She's just like, I'm perky. And,
I see it.
Yeah, it's really in your face, and you only see her torso, nothing else, and it's so beautiful.
It's when Piper's holding like the plate, right?
The plate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Touche, Kevin.
And then the little tease of little hair around the cleavage, around the boob round part. I don't know. It's great. It was sexy. What can I say?
Yeah, it
is. So next is issue ranking. Are we going to make this magically delicious, pretty witched, a sorcerer's apprentice, disenchanting, or vanquishable?
I'm not going to give it top tier because it's number 1. It just got us back into it, so I know it's going to get better, but I'll say pretty witching. Wait, that's the second one, right? Pretty witching?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty witching.
I'm going to say Sorcerer's Apprentice because I do think it's a good start and it was enjoyable, but it's still very middle of the road. Like it's definitely not bad at all, but it's just a nice story, you know. Okay, so I'm going to put it right in the middle at Sorcerer's Apprentice. Mm-hmm. This issue was a pun on the movie No Country for Old Men. Do you remember when that came out?
Yes, I do.
I never saw it. All I remember is like it won a bunch of awards and it had that really creepy dark-haired guy like walking around and like killing people.
Yeah, I saw it, but it wasn't like the most enjoyable movie.
Yeah. Something to note about this issue too is Piper used all of her powers in this issue.
Wow.
She froze things, she melted things, and she blew things up.
Go Piper.
Yeah. So now we have our Pias for poll for next week.
True
You mean it's just you and Prue, huh?
Phoebe? Phoebe, you there?
And a big hello to you too, Penny.
Come on, Patty. The rest is up to them.
Paige. My name is Paige.
Another P, imagine that.
P is for poll.
The poll this week is you get to choose a nickname for Gexagiel. do you have one you want to contribute if you have one?
I'll say Gaxi.
That's what was mine too. I put Gaxi because it just sounded normal. Oh, Gaxi goes with our Zinky and our Sorcy. It just seems our typical Gaxi. So we have Gaxi. I put gorgeous germaphobe. Gax, because they mentioned Gax in here as well, or other. So if you have another suggestion, you can write that in. So I'll put those options on the Instagram and the Twitter and see what kind of nicknames we get for him for next week.
Cool.
All right, Sean. So it's that time. Tell us what's next on the agenda.
So next up, we have low-level demons have never been a threat to the Charmed Ones until now, when Fritz and Valen, a pair of demons that has been secretly observing the sisters, get their hands on a weapon capable of destroying souls. The Hollowells will face their most dangerous foes yet. Also, leprechauns! And we see Phoebe is meditating above Leprechaun. She's holding a shillelagh. She has a 4-leaf clover shirt. And Kevin, I recognize one of these leprechauns.
I know, right? His face. I'm Drew O'Brien.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have done it. We reached the end. So tell the people where they can follow you and find you.
You can find me on Instagram under Sean Porrett. That's ShawnPorrett. That will lead you to Once Upon a Cult, Marvelous Galaxy of Disney, or my book, Witch's Brew, A Dream of Waking, or our other podcast, Kevin.
Yeah, Solving for X. You know the deal, our X-Men podcast. It's amazing. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's extreme. Yeah. So, extreme. So yeah, follow that one. Listen to that one if you like some X-Men. And you can follow this podcast at Words of the Witches, all places. Words of Witches on Twitter. That's the only one that's different. And yeah, be sure to rate and review on Apple or Spotify. We haven't got a rating in a while, so please do it. Yeah, so we'll see you next week, Spellworders. Thank you for listening.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.
Your destiny still awaits.